Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe, with lessons in person and personalized. Instruments including guitars and amps, horns, strings for instruments, and a myriad of music and sound equipment. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
We have a slight change to our presentation from SACOG. We actually have James Corliss presenting, not Lynette.
No offense to Lynette, but we got an upgrade. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, anything to report from closed session?
There is no reportable action from closed session.
Thank you. And it is my pleasure now to welcome to our meeting Mr. James Corliss, the Executive Director of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. Welcome, James. Does he have a microphone that works? No, it's the mic.
Okay, well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Pleasure to be here this evening. James Corliss, Executive Director of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. This is one stop on our tour of all of our 28 member jurisdictions, cities and counties across the region, to give you all an update on our the development of our long-range plan for the 6-county region, which is going to be a very important update. And it's going to be, we're going to be doing a lot of work on this next year. So it's kind of a preview. And then I wanted to give you a little bit of a highlight too on some of the initiatives and projects that we've got going at SACOG. So if you could advance the slides, we'll do this hopefully seamlessly. So I think you all know this, and Mr. Mayor, it's a pleasure to have you serving on the SACOG board as Marysville's representative. We have 6 counties and 22 cities, so 28 member jurisdictions, 31 members on the board. We're one of the largest regional planning agencies in the United States, with every single local government sitting around that table twice a month. That's a really big deal. Next slide. So the next, as I mentioned, the next long-range plan, and we are asked and authorized by state government, federal government to develop every 4 years a long-range plan for the entire 6-county region. It starts with growth and land use forecasts, and it really guides our transportation and infrastructure investments. This plan update is going to go out to the year 2050, so it truly is the definition of long-range planning. Next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the regional plan, but on the left-hand side with these icons, what we're trying to suggest here is the regional plan, when it's all said and done, really is a strategic plan. It is financially constrained. It is not a stapling exercise of all the wish lists of all the projects or all the growth and development across the region. It is very constrained financially, and it has to meet a lot of state and federal requirements, including air quality conformity, carbon and greenhouse gas emission reductions. So it really is a financially constrained strategic plan for the whole region. It is essential for being able to compete at the state level and the federal level for transportation funding in particular. Next slide. And as I said, it's not really a wish list. It is constrained, and we always have this challenge as we embark on these plans. So in this graphic here, I think if you go to the next slide, we'll have, oh no, sorry, go back a slide. Okay, so what we're just trying to say here is, in terms of an anecdote for this plan going out to 2050, the last plan went to 2040. Across the entire region, we anticipated about $36 billion in transportation funding over a 25-year period, right? So that's a lot of money, it's a lot of funding. Where do you invest that? Where do you get the biggest bang for the buck? But imagine this, if you're got a house and you have a renovation project and your family's growing, you want more space in the house. You'd love to have extra room, an extra bedroom, maybe a new kitchen, but your roof is leaking and your foundation needs to be fixed. That's essentially the state we're in terms of our regional plan. We don't have enough funding to do all of that, right? So we've got to figure out, how do we have a growing family with some more room that's usable, but actually maybe in a couple of decades from now, actually the kids are moving out and we have less space. That's because actually our demographic our population growth is fast. We're one of the fastest growing regions in California, but that will slow down eventually, right? So we have to both plan for growth and also plan for sustainability at the same time. And we have to do it on a tight budget. So we got to make some tough choices. All right, that's my anecdote for the night. Next slide. We have a triple bottom line framework that we are introducing to this plan that has been embraced with by our board, of equity, economy, and environment. In other words, we're trying to maximize outcomes in each of these areas. So equity and access to opportunity, especially for disadvantaged populations, economic prosperity, and a clean and sustainable environment. Next slide. And of course, as I mentioned a couple of times already, this document, this plan, is really essential as a guiding document for us and our ability to compete for state and federal transportation funds. One quick just side note, and I think there's a lot of good news that I'm happy to present to you tonight. In the latest federal program, there's the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed about a year ago, has more nationally competitive grants than ever before. It used to be money would flow down to the state level, to the metropolitan level, kind of by formula. We have to go compete for this money now, same as at the state capitol in Sacramento. In the RAISE program that U.S. Department of Transportation has, that's one of their big competitive grant programs. There were only 2 grants that were successful in our region this last time out. And one was a 6-county effort that we led to look at innovative mobility and clean forms of transportation and shared electric vehicles with a big emphasis on disadvantaged communities. And the second was the Yuba-Sutter Transit Center. Those two grants were the only ones that were successful, actually in the entire 6-county region. And I think that's something to take note of. Next slide. So I mentioned when we start to build this plan, we actually begin with a forecast around demographics, population growth, land use, development, housing, jobs, and growth. We do not simply add up all the general plans across the 6 counties, because if we did that you're planning almost for the next 80 years, and we're just planning for the next 25 years. So we're going to be bringing back to you in 2023 what we're calling pathways, which are basically alternative scenarios for the future. We're going to, next slide. And we're going to look at a couple of different sort of choices, scenarios, pathways that are in front of us as a 6-county region. And they essentially have to do with the type of growth, the pace of growth, and whether we're growing outward, whether we're actually growing, sort of reinvesting in our existing communities, on our existing developed footprint, or some kind of combination of the two. So whether we have faster outward growth into greenfield areas, whether we have a mix, or whether we actually are doing more growth, reinvesting and revitalizing and redeveloping a lot of our underutilized commercial corridors and everything else. Because those 3 pathways, as we bring them back to you next year, are going to show probably very different kinds of measures and metrics and outcomes. We'll show everything from air quality to traffic congestion to housing attainability and the like. We'll have a lot of really interesting data off these 3. It isn't that we will then pick one of those. We will just look at basically what are the assumptions around these kinds of future growth scenarios that we want to actually embrace and adopt and build into our next long range plan. Next slide. And part of that is coming back to all of you as elected officials and to the cities and the counties, but part of it too is really getting your thoughts and your input on how we can actually engage your residents across the 6 counties. So we would really like to do quite a bit of outreach next year, and really not just hold a couple of public hearings and have people come to us. We'd like to come to where your residents are. So we'd love to get your thoughts on community events, farmers markets, events where we can meet people where they are. We can do some polling and some surveys, and we can really try to engage, with your help and your staff's help, the public across the 6 counties. Next slide. Okay, so in terms of timing, this year is the setup year. We're doing this, as I said, to all the city councils and board of supervisors. Next year in 2023 is really the big education and outreach year, with all kinds of education sessions and looking at these different alternative growth scenarios. And then we eventually have to adopt this plan in 2024. We're actually talking about extending that schedule out into 2025. Of the many constraints or requirements, mandates on this plan is to reduce carbon emissions from transportation by 19% per capita by the year 2035. Our current plan does that. We have to make sure we maintain doing that. We also have some federal air quality conformity constraints we're under, but reducing those carbon emissions through this plan by showing smart, sensible, sustainable phased growth is the key to actually us being competitive and eligible for state transportation funding. Next slide. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the programs and initiatives that we have that are really kind of implementing this plan and implementing the last plan. One of the ones we're actually standing up and we're rolling out next year is an equity program around racial equity and community engagement. We want to work with all of you at the local level to do some planning grants through this EEI, or Engage, Empower, Implement program, to really engage lower income communities and communities of color to begin to help shape their own transportation investments. I know we were really happy to engage with many of you on a recent Safe Streets for All grant here among the 2 counties and the cities and with blue zones. A lot of those grants, federal grants and state grants, are going to be asking us, what are we doing for disadvantaged communities? What are we doing for equity and racial equity? And we have to be able to answer that in really genuine ways. We don't have to have the answer, but we have to say and really describe our commitment to doing community engagement, especially in lower income communities and communities of color. Next slide. The raise grant that I mentioned, just one example, we want to be able to be competitive. And those two grants I mentioned that we were really happy to be successful in securing, that's going to be an annual grant program. And here's just some of the language that's used in the raise grant, really prioritizing and asking us, what are we doing in terms of disadvantaged, underserved communities, increasing safety, and reducing barriers. So this is really the key to us being competitive as a region. Next slide. And just an example, this is some of the demographics and the census data that are used by the feds in terms of disadvantaged communities. So you may well ask yourself, well, what are we talking about and where are we talking about? There are many different layers and census maps here, but this is one of the ones which clearly shows a lot of your region in Marysville, being as part of the federal demographics and screen around disadvantaged communities. There's many criteria they put in there. I probably can't answer all your questions about which they are, but just know you're eligible, you're on the map, and that's a really important thing, right? So we've got to sort of fill in the blanks. This is not a box checking exercise. Next slide. Okay, another great program we've got, which we're really happy that your city is really participating in, and thanks to the mayor and the city managers, Green Means Go, and I know Dan knows quite a bit about this. Green Means Go is really our effort to implement our last plan, and that is try to clear the barriers and the hurdles and provide financial incentives to provide more economic revitalization and redevelopment in our existing communities. Our older downtowns, our commercial corridors. So all the places in green here are the places that cities and counties have identified as ripe for reinvestment. So you have a green zone in your downtown. That's part of your downtown specific plan and your revitalization. We have literally put you on the map because you yourself have put yourself on the map. We secured $38 million from the state of California to stand up this Green Means Go program to invest in infrastructure upgrades, not actually transportation, but water, sewer, utility upgrades to pave the way for more housing, jobs, mixed use, commercial redevelopment. So you see up there between Marysville, Yuba County, Yuba City, you've got a lot of green up there, right? And so our job in part as your regional agency is to literally put you on the map for state funders and federal funders. They understand that there are multiple benefits to investing in places like Marysville. Because if we can't get the state to understand that an investment is cost effective in Marysville, then we've got some problems. But we've got a lot of other green zones. In fact, 26 of 28 of our jurisdictions have identified these green zones. Then we've got 38 million, and that money is available right now and on the street. Our actual need is more like 400 million. So we're going to have to keep on working and lobbying in the state capitol and back in DC. So next slide. This next initiative is something that I'm really excited about, and I know the mayor's excited about. We are increasingly not just a 6-county region, but a 16-county mega region. So we're working very actively with our Bay Area partners, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, Northern San Joaquin Valley, and the San Joaquin Council of Governments. We've identified a dozen projects that kind of knit our larger Northern California economy and our mega region together. Importantly, for the Yuba-Sutter region and even north, the rail corridor, the ACE train from San Jose, the Tri-Valley, and Stockton is coming north and will land in Elk Grove, Midtown Sacramento, and the airport by 2020, late 23, early 24. And we are now partnering, and I think you've had this presentation with Butte County, to look at extending rail service to Plumas Lake, Marysville, and Chico. And we think that is a really exciting corridor with tremendous potential that will hook you in. I mean, high-speed rail is high-speed rail, but if we can get medium-speed rail or any rail in your situation, we will be really happy to see that. There has never been more money available for passenger rail investments, for track upgrades, for investments in coaches and cars. This is our time to go get that. And so that means lots of advocacy at the state capitol and back in Washington, D.C. Other upgrades as well include a 3rd-track rail project between Sacramento and Roseville, which isn't just 8 miles of track. It actually allows Roseville and Auburn and Placer County to get up to 10 trains round trips a day, not just to Sacramento, but to UC Davis, the East Bay, and San Jose. So that network of passenger rail across Northern California is a game changer. It's an economic game changer. Next slide. Just winding up here, the other way on a much smaller scale, but nevertheless really important, is a plan that we worked with many of your staff and special districts and levy districts on, which is a vision to connect the entire 6-county region by a network of paved biking and walking trails. So imagine that you could get on a trail, you can take your e-bike, you can take your family and safely get anywhere in this region on that system of trails. Imagine that people could take their bikes on the train and get off in Marysville and spend 4 days biking around with their families on a safe and connected system of trails. This calls for up to 1,000 miles of new trails. But honestly, again, that is an investment in the economy and public health. And so we've just released this plan called Ready, Set, Trails. It's got a lot of buy-in from local governments across our region, and we're trying to set up again to be competitive for state grants and federal grants to begin to build this. And I know you've got lots of opportunities here in Marysville and the Yuba-Sutter region. Next slide. Keep going, next slide, because I'm all right. And finally, last but not least, every year we run a Youth Leadership Academy. High school students, we take them in for 4 or 5 months. We get many of you as elected officials, but we get state legislators, members of Congress. We tell high school students that planning, engineering, regional problem solving is still going to be needed in the future. It's a great career. These kids are awesome, and we're taking applications until November 4th. We've actually gotten a number of Marysville students at Yuba County high school students participating. We do it hybrid, so sometimes we meet in person. We take them to Sacramento National Airport. We take them all over. So would love to get high school students applying for that program. Would love to get any questions you might have. This is a big plan update coming up. We'll be back next year, as I said. But in the meantime, I'm happy to get any kind of Q&A. So thank you.
Thank you, James. I think everybody can see why we have such, we're also happy to have a really well-qualified, energetic, and visionary senior executive at SACOG. James is a good one. Do we have any questions or comments from the council? I've got a quick one, and maybe I should know this. The reduced carbon emissions, the 19%, and that's by 2035?
Right.
And that's state or a federal? It's a state mandate.
State requirement for all the regions in California. It's a per capita reduction. It gets super technical very quickly. From 2005 base year to 2035, we have to show we're reducing on a per capita basis. So it's not that we won't grow, and we're not going to get dinged for growing, but it's on a per capita basis. So it's really, I'll tell you one interesting little tidbit, because when I've talked to your state delegation from up here, like, well, you know, I don't know if that really applies to Yuba-Sutter. You know, everybody drives up here. It's not about that. It's actually about having an efficient community where people, if they do drive, you drive less and fewer miles. You actually have some of the lowest on average miles driven of any parts of our region. I can show you all the maps, the data. Fascinating, which means we get more housing and jobs up here. It's a really good thing from multiple perspectives. So that's the requirement, 19% per capita reduction by 2035. We have to show that in our updated plan. It gets technical quickly, but it's really important because if we can't show that, we become less competitive for state funding.
I presume that goes hand in hand then, the 2035 date with the, if I recall correctly, an Air Resources Board, I think, mandated that all
electric cars, all the new for sale vehicles, 2035 and after. But remember, the fleet turnover is not that quick. So we're not going to go just to electric vehicles overnight. They're not going to happen.
I just wondered, what do we know about the planning for the grid? Because the grid seems to be challenged, I should say.
We know we need to do more planning for the grid. Yeah, no, it is. It's I think we're on a path to try to basically figure out, well, you know, anyway, that's I'll come back and give
it's a tough one. It's
the grid is not going to handle it right now, right? So what we need is we need a resilient grid. We need investments in the grid. We need investments in the power supply. But I do think that the changeover is coming. The changeover to hybrids and electrics is coming, which also presents another issue, which is our gas tax and those revenues If you have an electric vehicle, you don't pay into the gas tax, but that's again, another topic for another day, perhaps.
Okay, I'm letting you off the hook. Thank you. James, thanks so much.
Right through the chair.
Yes, sir. Please.
No, it's all good. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate that, James. As the person who currently sits in the chair for the Yuba-Sutter Transit Board, thank you for everything SACOG has done with that. Also, furthermore, I'd like to thank SACOG, especially for helping us with our Fifth Street project in the past couple of years. That was awesome. Thank you very much. And then last but not least, on a personal note, seeing this Ready Set Trails brings me back to when I was in the Boy Scouts and I was earning my bicycle merit badge. We were having a hard time trying to find trails. And then I was unlucky enough to be one of the individuals, because I'm kind of a big target, that got hit by a car while I was riding my bicycle. So I think that the trails idea is a phenomenal idea in long range. So, you know, I see lots of people trying to bike around town. I think that's awesome. So this being regionally, I might have to actually inflate the tires of my bike again and go from there. So thank you for everything you're doing regionally and throughout the entire Sacramento area. And
I can't believe I didn't mention the Fifth Street Bridge. I come to Marysville, didn't? Yeah,
No,
that was.
I remember
that that was fantastic, and I know that was a lot of hard work by a lot of people. But I think it was a great example of where, you know, we can add some value to already, you know, really good efforts locally and the two cities teaming up. We've also got a really exciting. I should have mentioned. We've got some development assistance we worked on with your two cities, with Marysville and Yuba-Sutter, to look at your economic revitalization potential. So you all applied to us for that, and we were happy to be able to provide that. And I think it's happening next month in November. Just kind of having another set of eyes come in, right, and look at the pro formas and the economic potential of your two downtowns jointly, which this is kind of how we think. So thank you, Council Member.
James, you're always welcome here. Thank you very much.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Madam Clerk, there is a matter on the agenda that we will be removing. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Item number 4. Thank you very much. Item number 4, which is discussion and possible action regarding the Caltrans Highway 70 project, will not be an item on the discussion and action agenda today. The topic is still very much alive and being dealt with primarily in closed session right now. Any action out of closed session will be reported. Okay, we now move to the community and consent calendar. Anyone wishing to address the council concerning consent calendar items, or on matters not already on any of the agendas, are invited to make oral comments of up to 3 minutes. If you'd like to comment, you're attending the meeting in person, get a speaker's card from the city clerk, return it to her, and you will be called in due course. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to speak, raise your hand via Zoom, and when called upon, you'll be unmuted and you may address the council. Should be noted that by state law, the council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion on any item not already on the posted agenda. And if you have any documents you'd like to be distributed, please mail them to City Clerk, 526 C Street, Marysville 95901. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone wishing to make public comment at this stage?
We will have one shortly if you would be so kind to give us just a couple of minutes.
You know what, we're semi-patient, so we'll do that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So our first speaker will be Peggy, and she will be talking about unsafe travel. unsafe travel.
Welcome. It's primarily for people online, most of the people.
So, Mayor Branscombe, a few weeks ago, you asked me to do you a favor and come down and talk about the traffic here in the city of Marysville. And I'm not even sure if this is the place to start. It's such a cool book. But what I want to talk about now is 11th Street and F Street, which is a major intersection. F and 11th, one block off of 10th Street. The traffic has increased 300% since Starbucks has been put in. Nobody uses the entrance and exit that was designed for this because in the project, it was wider. Then they ran into a problem. There was some kind of a box that couldn't be moved. The exit is now narrower. People will not use it. They come around the block, they go up Orange Alley. It is 20 feet wide. It is not a street. And they do it quite speedily. We have had threats on our life when we try to pull our boat out of our garage, or if I take too long, getting my Harley out of the garage because I'm short. They're not kind. And when we were in on the planning meeting, when we discussed this, we were told we would not be impacted, that traffic is not going to turn that way. I have lived there for 20 some years. My husband has been there more than 30. We have lived through Kentucky Fried Chicken, Popeye's Chicken, a Mexican restaurant, a coffee shop. None of them have been like this. There is filth from customers throwing the garbage on the ground. I know that's shouldn't be Starbucks' fault, but we hold everybody else responsible when they abuse with their products. But what I'm looking for is a way to stop the traffic. I'm at home right now, taking some time off. I hear screeches and horn honks because when they come out of Starbucks, they're running late because the line is so long. So they want to get to where they're going. There is no stop sign at G or F.
And they're caffeinated.
Oh, hell yes. I want to know what Starbucks puts in that coffee to make it so, it's like a drug. Because I hear these cars coming every day with loud mufflers, louder music, and they are obnoxious. My neighbors, there's a Studio Sixplex across the alley from my garage. There are 6 families in that unit that are affected by this. People, instead of waiting, they go 2 at a time in this alley. They run up on their parking lot. They run up on our garage area. We have 2 feet from our garage door to the alley. They run up on that. Nobody will talk to me about this. I have tried calling Starbucks. I've actually emailed the mayor and never heard back from him. So I am looking to the city council, what can I do to stop this problem? I could make some suggestions.
There's
Well, you said
restrictions
you
on
were going to
engaging.
help me.
You can refer.
Yeah, refer to staff, and I might tell you that I just opened the video that I took when I was walking by there the other day. I took a video and I sent it along, and I forgive me, I have not followed up on it as I should
Oh, I
have.
have. Every day.
But I took a video and I showed a spot where a nice blockade could be made where I think the solution that I'd suggest would be a barricade, and you can't transit from
10th to
10th
11th.
to 11th on Orange.
That would
In other
be,
words, if it appears, once that Starbucks is there, it's not moving.
no.
And I think that traffic just needs to be forced back out into 10th Street.
And they also apparently didn't make enough parking spaces for their employees because they park in a private parking lot posted no parking. The parking for the employees is filled up, and then there are 3 cars parked across that.
Oh, in the apartment unit there?
Yeah, well, where I guess his name is Sonny.
No, that's a tough situation. That has not gone well for you.
No.
And it's referred to staff. That's what I'm told I can do here in response. But I do have this video. It's there, and I sent it along, and I just haven't followed up on it.
Okay. will
I'm glad you
keep coming
came.
back.
I'm glad you came. Please, thank you.
I will keep coming back because this is freaking annoying. And like I said, there are 6 apartments, each of which have small children. They can't even let them outside.
No, it needs to be remedied. Thank you. Madam Clerk, any other speakers at this stage?
Not at this point, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, consent calendar. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine and therefore approved by one motion unless a council member or the city manager first requests that a matter be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. What is the will of the council?
So move to approve.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Okay, now to the discussion and action calendar. And again, we have removed item number 4. All matters in this section of the agenda are discussed and will be acted on individually. Members of the public may request to speak on any of these items for up to 3 minutes. If you would like to comment, you're attending in person, speaker's card from and return to the city clerk. If you are participating via Zoom, raise your hand via Zoom. And when you're called on either via Zoom or in person, you may address the council for up to 3 minutes. If you have any documentation you'd like to distribute to the council, mail it to City Clerk, 526C, Marysville, California, 95901. First matter is item number 5 on the agenda. Agreement with the Linda Fire Protection District for fire protection administrative services. The recommendation, pass a motion to 1, approve an agreement with the Linda Fire Protection District for fire protection administrative services, providing services of a fire chief, provisions for a potential future battalion chief, and related administrative support activities as described in that agreement and scope of work. And 2, authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. And 3, transfer from the fiscal year 2022-23 appropriations from salaries and benefits to professional services. Contact on this is Mr. Jim Shad, the city manager. Mr. Shad.
Good evening. Council, I see this item as a very positive item. It's a win-win proposition for both city as well as Linda Fire Protection District. The agreement really hinges around our position of fire chief and future battalion chiefs. The thought process after deliberating with staff and Linda representatives is that pooling our resources is a better idea. The agreement allows for a more efficient use of the resources that we have and better coordination in the region. The cost associated with this contract initially is roughly $96,000, and that is for the services of the chief and some ancillary administrative services. If we choose to move towards having a battalion chief stationed at our station, that cost would go to $144,000 annually, and both of those are less expensive than the previous arrangement with a chief that worked for the city of Marysville. As I mentioned, it's an opportunity to share resources. The resource we're talking about tonight is a fire chief and a battalion chief, but Chief Hegstrom and I have talked about this significantly, and it will likely lead to sharing of other resources such as inspection services, fire mechanics, and so on. The agreement has been well received by Linda's board, city executive staff, the D10 Hallwood District, which Marysville services, and most importantly, our firefighters. Everyone I have talked to so far, and I don't expect to get any new answer or different answers, have talked about the Chief Hegstrom's stellar reputation. I have not talked to anybody yet that had a negative comment about the chief. He is well respected as a leader in this community, and I truly believe this is the correct path for us to provide better service for our community. I'm more than happy to answer any questions on the contract.
Okay, the matter is now open for public comment. Do we have any public comment on the matter, Madam Clerk?
We do not.
Thank you. Public comment closed. Okay, I could quickly make a comment. I know Councilman Hudson has a lot more experience in this field. My understanding is, and I've learned this since I've been on the council, is that these fire departments all work together. They coordinate, as police departments do too. They coordinate and support each other, and there is a connection between them. And here we are, we have a neighboring fire department with a chief that has an excellent reputation. I've met him and hold him in very high regard. And I hold Mr. Shadd's judgment on this also in very high regard. And here we have a chance to connect the two communities through the fire service, and I think that's a good thing. And it just, I can't see a single thing wrong with it. I'm in support, but I wanted to get that in. Does anybody else have a comment?
I just wanted to interject that Chief Hegstrom is here tonight, more than happy to answer questions, and we have our one of our chiefs, or excuse me, one of our captains here as well to answer any questions.
I want to make sure he knows he's welcome before he talks. Anyway, any other comments from the council at this point?
Yeah,
Vice Mayor.
I just want to say, following through this as we've gotten to this point, it only makes sense, not only financially, but to have a lot better communication throughout our county region. So I don't want to try to get into those particulars because Brad can do that way better than any of us, but I was in full support of this the whole way.
Chief, would you like to address the council? There's a microphone. We hope it works.
Mr. Mayor and council members, again, I'd like to just take the opportunity to thank you for even the forward thinking of this opportunity to have this contract even exist. I do think it's great for the region. I think it's great for the Yuba County Fire Service. We see that we have 9 fire districts or fire agencies in Yuba County alone, and to bring this opportunity and help with this coordination of services, I think it would be hugely beneficial. I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm very dedicated and committed to the California Fire Service and look forward to bringing that over to the city of Marysville, and definitely working with the executive team, the staff at Marysville Fire, and the constituents that we serve. So I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. Any questions of me?
Questions or comments? Say welcome aboard. I might be, go ahead, please. Councilman Hudson.
No pressure. So here it is, Chief Hegstrom, I appreciate you coming here tonight. I appreciate you coming forth with the idea, and you are a highly reputable individual. As a retired individual in the fire service for 30 plus years in this area, and also an instructor at Yuba College Fire Academy for 25 years, I do remember you coming through the academy at a certain point, but I do not remember the exact number of the academy you came through.
That was Academy 11.
11. Now I feel really old because we're at 42 right now, and I've been there since Academy 5. So, So I've been with the city of Marysville and the fire department when it was the city of Marysville's fire department, and then when they transitioned to Cal Fire, and in that contract for 18 years. And just to kind of let everybody know, it was difficult sometimes on occasion with Cal Fire being our contractor at that point, because our assigned fire chief for the night sometimes came out of Auburn, Lincoln, so forth. So when we had our structure fires and so forth, and we didn't have any command presence, we were waiting 45 minutes for somebody to come and be our command group at the particular juncture. And I know that Marysville Fire Department currently is also doing that right now, is that, you know, the fire captains are taking on a much larger role as the command and control on any sort of incidents that requires multiple staffing and so forth. So the idea of joining with Linda Fire unfortunately came after we committed $27,000 to a consultant to help us find somebody. And that, you know, I'll take responsibility on that. I mean, I remember when our city manager, Jim Shadd, asked me on this dais before we came and said, "Are you going to contest this $27,000 contract?" And at that point I said no, because I was hoping it was going to bring something to the city of Marysville. And as time went, I'm not saying that the individuals that applied, you know, well, I have no idea who applied because I'm not allowed to know who applied. But those individuals that did, I'm sure had sufficient consideration. I also know that, as Chief Ekstrom said, that we have 9 different fire departments in Yuba County, and there is a lot of redundancy inside of that. And I'm not talking that, you know, I love the idea of dropping boundaries and being able to closest resource go to the 911 call, or the fire, whatever the case is, and so forth. But this idea of shared administrative services was presented before this dais just as I came on 4+ years ago, excuse me, just shy of 4 years ago. And that was for an agreement with another fire department on the south side of Linda Fire Protection District. And we were putting them back and forth a lot back then. And it kind of almost happened, and then it didn't, for whatever reasons. And I don't know exactly the reason why it stopped. But this is something that's been coming for potentially a while, and it's only going to be beneficial in the long run. Is that, you know, if we have Marysville Fire Department, will be Marysville Fire Department. And we are going to have Linda Fire Protection District taking care of our administrative services and command and control on incidents. And that is what we are putting forth right now. Marysville Fire will still stay the same. We will just have administrative services and command and control of incidents by a vetted fire chief here in Yuba County. And those resources are massive also because of, I'm just going to say, the culture of, you know, Linda Fire Protection District. Everybody is here locally. You know, everybody lives within an immediate response area for now. I'm not sure it's going to stay that way forever, but it's kind of one of those things that, Chief Ekstrom, you're not far, you know, and your battalion chief is not far if we have a need for an immediate command and control of any sort of large instance. I remember being on structure fires where I was the captain, and I was going, I guess I'm the person in charge of the hose and my crew and every other crew while I'm still in the structure, you know, it's doing those kind of things. So that command and control locally is awesome. And I appreciate Linda Fire Protection Board being willing to entertain the idea. And I thank you for, you know, standing before a state chief. And I hope that we can start working more cooperatively, because we're always cooperative with Linda Fire, Yuba City Fire, you know, Wilmarica Cal Fire. We are a 4-0 staffed fire department at this particular juncture, and we cannot fight a fire with just 4 people. We have to trust upon Linda Fire. We have to trust upon Yuba City Fire, all those kinds of things. And to have a joint administrative services for command and control is a great idea. You know, what's that saying? There's more chiefs than Indians. So I would like to see us have more Indians in some way than, I don't mean to be derogatory in any shape or form. I'm just that it's an old saying. I'd like to see us share some of the responsibility of, you know, joint services globally. So go from there. That's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Other comments, questions? Yes, please.
I just want to say that I'm excited to see this happen. And, you know, it seems like every year that goes by, our communities are merging and becoming more and more reliant upon each other. And so it's after meeting you the other day and running a bunch of questions by you, I don't have any for tonight, but I absolutely support this 110%. Think it's fantastic for Marysville and for Yuba County in general. So.
I'm certain there are people who disagree with this. In fact, I've seen some disagreement with this. However, I have chatted this topic up with a number of people in the community, and all of the responses I've had on one-on-one, and I'm not selling them. I just tell them what's going on, and they see the plus side to the equation and the connection with our neighboring community. I think it's important to have these kind of connections. With that, Madam Clerk, you had something to add?
I did. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry for acting out of turn. However, I did want to note that we did receive a comment on this agenda item, and it is printed out and placed in front of each position on the dais.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much.
I will say we have one concern, and that is how the chief is going to change the logo on his truck when he goes from Linda to Marysville to Hallwood. So we'll figure that out, though.
Okay. What's the will of the council on this matter?
Make a motion to approve as written.
Expecting that motion come from you. Second.
I'll second it.
We have a second. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Approved.
I think that is unanimous. Thanks again, Chief. Good. We are through that part of the agenda. Committee reports. Whoa. Number 6, did I miss something? Oh, it's down here at the bottom of the page. Almost missed it. Approve. The matter on the agenda is item number 6. And thank you, Councilman Hudson. Approve license agreement for Bryant Field located at 1431 C Street. Pass a motion approving a license agreement between the City of Marysville and the Pecos League of Professional Baseball Clubs, LLC, for Bryant Field located at 1431 C Street for the 23 through 25 baseball seasons. And I'd have been in a lot of trouble if I'd have let this thing. Thanks for saving me. Thanks for saving me. I'm hoping to get season tickets. Anyway, Mr. Dan Flores is presenting. Please, Mr. Flores.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. We did have a great presentation on this just a couple of weeks ago, so I don't have a whole lot more to add to it, but we do have a contract in front of you. Some of the highlights of that contract include the term, which is 2 years long. It begins on May 15th, 2023 and ends on August 15th, 2025, at which time we can consider an extension, and the terms of the extension are also in that contract. The Pecos League will be paying $11,000 per season to the City of Marysville. They will be handling all of the maintenance. They do not have expectation. This was brought up by some of you. They do not have expectation for the naming rights of the park. They will be looking, though, for host families, and they will be looking for support of the community, and they're very excited to be on board. I believe Andrew Dunn, the owner of the Pecos League, is online, but I don't see his name, so maybe not. Okay. Andrew, if you are on there, maybe let us know somehow. But I do want to also say thank you to Councilman Buttacavoli and Councilman Belza from Parks and Rec for the work that they put into getting this together and pulling this off and having the Pecos League come to Marysville. I think this is a big deal, having the Marysville Drakes here, and we look forward to hosting them as a city. Any comments or questions? Here. Yes.
You have to open for public comment. Matter's now open for public comment. Any public comment, Madam Clerk?
Not on this item, Mayor.
Thank you. Closed. Now we can have questions.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Yes.
Who wants? Does anybody have a question or comment? Please.
I just want to say thank you to you, Dan and Jim, in navigating through this, and Brant as well. And just the quick response and everybody coming together as a team on our end in order to make this happen and make it happen quickly. And it's a real blessing to have them have the Pecos League come into Marysville. I think it's going to be great for the next 3 years. and super excited to see it get kicked off. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I do want to add too, that it's been great working with Andrew Dunn, who's the owner of the Pecos League. He's just been willing to work, always responsive, willing to work with us through the whole process.
And Mr. Flores, I understand that with this agreement, the city would be able to schedule other events when the ballpark is not in actual use by the Pecos League.
That is correct. Their schedule is included in the package. So you'll see they intend to have 29 to 30 games. They're planning on having some tryouts depending on where we are with putting up our wall and in December, but they're planning on doing some tryouts in December, which will be great to have. But yes, we can host different events during that time period. And at this point, we are planning multiple events for next summer.
Fabulous. Mr. Mayor.
I want to thank you too, Dan and Jim, sure. And I'm sure there was staff involved with getting this completed. I never saw anything move so fast, along with some luck that I don't know how much luckier we could have been that they called and asked.
Correct.
And under the circumstances with the previous team that it fell into place like this. So I think it's amazing. I can't wait. And again, Jim, Dominic too. Yeah. And I know staff was involved with this, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, barring any further discussion, what's the will of the council?
I would like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
I didn't get to second my own.
Sorry, Bruce. Start all over. Yeah. What's the will of the council?
Yeah. You go ahead and make the motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
There we go. That's been done right.
So we'll have to see who throws out the first pitch.
Yeah.
No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Clerk,
okay, thank you.
Vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Flores. I can now go to the next page. Thank you. Committee reports. Councilman Belza.
I have no committee reports to be made.
Councilman Gilchrist.
Our newly founded film commission held their second meeting today. And I'll give you some statistics, even though the film commission only started in February, and we have funded it along with other precincts. There have been 7 inquiries into film production here, and there's been 1 full commercial produced that generated $6,000 for one of us in permits. So it's alive and well. The Yuba-Sutter. So
by one of us, what do you mean?
One of the cities. I don't know exactly where the commercial was shot. It was probably in the Sutter Buttes. I don't know what kind of commercial it is, but those are the statistics. And we'll have those statistics so we can see how this is growing. But the entertainment industry is the second largest industry in the state of California. Film and entertainment industry is the second largest one. And that is one of the reasons we've created the Film Commission, Yuba-Sutter Film Commission through Chamber, etc. So that's my first committee report. The second one is Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture. We have a match for our Cotton Rosser Monument. Someone has stepped up to donate $75,000 as a match if we can raise the other $75,000. If this were to occur, we would have the full funding for the Cotton Rosser Monument. And that is it for my committee report.
Councilman Hudson, please.
I have nothing to report from committees.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
No reports for committees.
Yeah. Thank you. I think Vice Mayor and I are on the traffic committee, and that's been dealing with Caltrans matter and some other matters to do with traffic, but nothing that we can report right now. Madam Clerk, council correspondence.
Not for tonight's meeting, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, what do you have to report?
I have a whole bunch of things, mostly dates. But I'll start with B Street negotiations. I'll just say that they're going very positive. We will be bringing an item on the B Street property regarding rezoning to rezone the entire acreage to general commercial. Will just make it easier to develop the property. Date-wise, Say Love Saturday, 10/28. We have the Scaryville event on 10/31 on D Street. We're hoping to bring business grant program in early November for approval, recommendation for approval by council. We all know when elections are 11/8. We're hoping to squeeze in a general plan update in more detail on 11/15, which leads me to, we have a new public works director starting on Thursday, Vincenzo Peraza. I hope I got it right. He is on Zoom. Okay. Mr. Carrazza comes from traffic engineering background, which we could dearly use at this point. He has been in the public works engineering industry for many years, serving a bunch of different roles, including directorships and actually a city manager position at times. I am very excited to get him on board. He will be here Thursday and he is already jumping right into things. I'm not sure if Vincenzo wants to say anything, but I want to say welcome aboard.
Yeah, let's get him in person.
Yeah, in person.
There we go. He's been invited. Jim, go ahead.
So, Vincenzo, are you there?
Testing. Can anybody hear me?
You're
loud and clear.
Loud and clear, yes.
Good. Yes. Well, hi everybody. Again, Vincenzo Carrazza, your new public works director. Getting excited. I'm watching you right now over in Nevada, and looking forward to joining everybody in person.
We're looking forward to seeing you. This is Mayor Chris Branscombe, and hearing more from you in person. And we're looking forward to that. And that's going to be, when will that be, Jim?
Thursday.
This Thursday. Fabulous. Yes. Fabulous.
And
well,
one of his first priorities will be looking at our traffic and traffic calming measures, which he has significant experience in.
Thank you, Mr. Oh, good.
Okay, moving on. I did want to throw a date out there for a town hall meeting on 11/22. Nicole will be working with the various council members. Would like to nail down a topic, and I might be punished for this, but one of the things I was thinking was traffic and just getting input on traffic. But seems to be a important topic now. Couple other things. We did apply for a SACOG Green Means Go grant. Kathy Peace helped us with that. Our proposal is for $392,000 with $100,000 of that matching from our sewer fund. Is that correct, Finance Director? And then the second grant was a Cal Recycle grant for roughly $275,000, and that would cover some new trash and recycling receptacles throughout the town, as well as some drinking fountain bottle fillers throughout town. And that would include, we've proposed 1 year's worth of maintenance costs, meaning asking for them to pay for us to empty those, because they'll likely have to be emptied manually. I'm almost done. Wild Seed Fire, thank you, fire department. Excellent job. That could have turned into being a much bigger fire. Looks like an electrical fire, responded very quickly. If they hadn't, we would have probably, at least I'm told, we would have lost the entire roof of the building. So thank you. And then the only other thing I had was slideshow. I just wanted to give a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I have about 10,000 words here. So we have been making progress on some of the projects we've been asking for funding for. This is an HVAC and exhaust system on top of the shop building. Which has been completed now. Next slide. Maybe. This is over at the corporate yard, and if you notice how clean that shop is.
Oh, they knew you were coming.
Yeah. I didn't take that picture, but very, very clean. And if you notice there, Councilmember Hudson, there is a compactor roller in there being worked on. Just so you know, we're looking at the street side of things. Next slide. There's our new fire truck. That was the truck that was originally going to cost about $150, and we did some creative purchasing, and I believe that came in at about $70,000 or $80,000 fully outfitted. Next slide. And delivered today or yesterday, our new skid. Actually, it's a tracked compact loader with a masticator on it. So that will be going into service to do vegetation removal, as well as many other chores around the city. The Yuba Water Agency funded half of that, and we funded half of that. So that was a very good deal for with Yuba Water. Next slide. There's our new gate that keeps vagrants from coming in and helping themselves while our staff is not there. Next slide. And these are more for the public. You see the brighter street lights. That was a matter of taking lenses out of the street light that were dulled and much brighter now. And then the water on the right side is another creative solution from our sewer folks getting water over to the FX Motorsports site.
Wait a minute, you said sewer folks. What kind of water is that?
It's clean water. Next. There's our guys on Bryant Field. And the person taking the picture is not included, but I think he's in the next slide. That is our fire mechanic who